I think I'm okay. Hi all. I'm late. I know. I'm sorry. My electricity keeps going in and out and in and out. So I'm having just not a good time. So I'm sorry I'm late. I'm here now. If my electricity goes out, hopefully it'll keep going and we'll get through this. I can't answer comments yet. Oh, wait, I'm just coming up now. Okay, so we're coming up now. So if I can, we'll be able to answer questions. I can't. All right, sound down. Ready? Let's paint. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being patient with me. I'm sorry. You know how I hate that. All right, let's learn some fun techniques. I'm gonna flip you around. I'm gonna turn this upside down and we're gonna pop over. Ready? Here we go. Okay, hopefully I'm on camera. Yes? Okay, so, and I'll give you a sneak peek of Monday's class, and I'll give you a sneak peek of the next class. So this is tonight's class. Let me give you some light. Because right now my electricity's back on. This is my piece. Okay? This is what we're doing tonight. So, I've painted my piece white. Now I'm going to do what's called slip slap. And we're going to slip slap the background. And I still don't see comments, so maybe they'll come up. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white, warm white. I'm going to take some summer squash. I'm going to put them on my palette. I don't need as much summer squash as I do white. When you do this, I'm going to use a big brush. The bigger it gets, it's called a wash. And it doesn't matter. You see what bad condition it's in? It's an awful condition. But that doesn't matter. Hi, Sarah. Oh, I got a comment. Yay. Hi, sweetheart. Okay, so I'm going to take a damp brush and I'm going to pick up white. And I'm going to work pretty quickly. Okay? You see how I'm almost doing X's. I'm just back and forth. Now I'm working fast because this has to be wet to move the next color in. And I know I picked up some yellow. That was by accident, but that's okay. Because now I'm going to pick up yellow. And I'm just picking up a little bit of yellow on my brush. And I'm here. I'm X's. And you see how I'm slip slapping. Now, depending on what I want some dark areas. And I want some lighter areas. So you see what I'm doing? Now, if I get too dark, I'm going to pick up some white. I'm just going to add more white. You see that? And what that gives us is that gives us a background that has a whole bunch of color. You see that? So I'm darker here. And then I have lighter here. And I'm here. So that and if you look, I've used all my white. And I've used just a touch of the yellow. Because I don't want it to be heavy in yellow. Okay? So in the end, if you look at my piece, I have lighter areas and I have darker areas. And then I'm lighter again down here. This we're going to float in. But you see, and that gives us a really, really nice background. Okay? I think I'm backwards again. Okay, so let me give you a second and I'll dry this. I feel very rushed and very out of sorts because my electricity was out, so I'm very sorry. I'm usually very, very calm. But, you know, I don't like being late. I don't like being late, I'm so sorry. Okay, So I'm just drying here. And this is just a fan. I picked up mine at Brookstone's, but you can get a fan at the dollar store. You can get them at Walmart. This one just happens to be very, very quiet. So, and it'll just dry your piece. And you can tell, I don't know if you can see it, I have an area here that if I turn it like this, it's shiny. See that there? If it's shiny, that means it's wet. And if it's matte, it's dry. So that's how you tell if something is dry or something is wet. Okay, so now I'm pretty good. Okay, so that's my background, which I happen to love. And I happen to love the colors. I did yellow because it's such a summery, fun color. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to shade the edges. And I shade the edges because that gives us some dimension. So when you see the color is darker, the item is receding. The lighter the color, the item is coming towards you. So what happens is you'll see that these edges kind of look like they're going down. You see that? If I'm backwards, I don't know why. I'm backwards on mine. Okay, let's see. Hi, Betty. Hi, Donna. Welcome. You did come along at the right time. I'm so happy you're here. Hi, B. Oh, gosh. I miss my classes, too. Thank you, Donna. We're hoping we have online dates August, September, and October. But hopefully, we'll be back before then. You know? So, hopefully, we'll be back before then. Say a little prayer. Because I miss you all so terribly. However, Donna, as you're one of them, you must just be loving that you can come paint with us. So I'm happy you're here. So like I said, we have 2 a month. One is intermediate, so you have to do some prep, and the other one is, this one is beginner. So Monday is, and I'll show you at the end, I'll show you what's Monday, and I'll show you the beginner project for next month, which I just finished. Okay, so we're gonna float. So floating is 4 steps. On this piece, I'm gonna use a big brush, simply because I have a big area. Normally, I just use, I use a 14 flat. Don't use anything less than a 12 flat. You don't want a smaller brush. So this is a 14 flat. But this is what I use for my shading. So when we go on to the popsicles, I'll show you. Okay, so floating is 4 steps. Remember your 4 steps. Wet, blot, load, blend. Hi, Kathy, darling. Okay, so we're going to wet, and you'll see there's a shine on the bristles of your brush. So we wet. You're going to watch, this is the bristles, this is your ferrule, and this is your handle. So you're going to blot flat, and as soon as you'll see the shine will go from the chisel edge of the bristles to the ferrule. As soon as it hits, you lift. That will leave you with enough moisture in your brush. Now I say that's the easiest way to remember, because every brush is different. Every brand is different. Every size is different. So whatever brush you're using to float, if you follow that rule, you'll have the perfect amount of water in your brush. Now, I wet, 4 steps. Wet, blot, corner load. When I corner load, I'm holding my brush this way. And be as straight as you can, because if you're this way, you're going to pick up a whole lot more on your brush. So if I go this way, I'm all the way here. See how much I have across my brush? So if I go this way, I have less. Because what happens is, now that's wet, blot, load. When I blend, see how it's starting to go across my brush? So see how far I've gone? I've gone from here all the way to here. So you don't want to start here and end up here. You'll have no water to have a graduation of color. Okay, so step, now this is floating. So we wet, we blot flat, we pick up a little bit on the corner, which is load, and then we blend. When we blend, small strokes, and don't walk into the paint. So you're walking away from the paint. What you're looking for is, here's the first stroke, and here as we blend, I have a graduation of color. As soon as I have my graduation of color, that's when I lift my brush. Okay? Hey, Jane. So we wet, we blot, we corner load, we blend, and then we float. When you float, okay, so the technique to load your brush is 4 steps: wet, blot, load, blend. When you float flat. And remember, and I say this over and over, all the bristles on all the surface all the time. So your brush, you see how all, and I usually go one way, but you see how all my bristles are down? The common thing that people do is they go like this. But then you don't get to see how I don't have the graduation of color there and I have it there. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to fix that. And I use long strokes. Okay, I don't use short strokes. Because if you use short strokes, a bunch of tongue twisters tonight. Don't ask me why. It's one of those days. I'm here, I'm here. So say I'm doing this. You see how I have 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see exactly where I've lifted my brush. You don't ever want that. You want it to be nice and smooth and continuous. Now, see that? And I have a nice graduation of color. All right, now, when you are here, this float has to be dry, because if it's not, I'm going to come and float here, and I'm going to pull off what I just did here and here, right where it's wet. So you do this, and you dry it. I'm ahead on this side, don't tell anybody. Okay, so here, I'm going to flip-flop back and forth between the two. Then you would do these sides. Now again, you have to remember, your float has to dry before you go on to the next area. I'm loading my brush. Oh, I'm using Marigold, sorry. Wet, blot, load, blend. So I chose Marigold because it's a darker value of my background. Okay? So in the end, I don't know, you can see the whole thing. I have all 4 sides done. Okay? And on this piece, you can use any surface you want. So look at a surface. That's exactly right, Jane. If you get a harsh line, what you have to do is you have to go over it while it's wet. If you wait until it's dry, you have that line. So what I do is, and this is a little trick, this is a wonderful trick. So just say, I got this nice hard line here that I don't like. Well, you know what, better yet, hang with me for a second. I'll here, and I'll have this line, okay? So the answer to that, and that's just because I didn't lift, I lifted the corner of my brush. People are afraid that they're going to get the paint on their piece. Like there's too much water or there's too much paint. But that's the purpose. You want just enough water in there. So, if I have that harsh line, what you do is wet, blot, load, blend. take your base coat color. So I'm now back to the light yellow, and I'm going to float over it, and that'll take out your harsh line. And then when it's dry, you just float over it again with your original shading color, which is the Marigold. But you see how I just took that, and I had a really harsh line. So you see how I just took that out? You're not interrupting me, Jane. It's a good thing. I'm happy to... It helps people because they don't realize things. So when you're painting this, you can see how you can fix it. And as important as it is to paint it, you need to know how to fix it. Because that's where people get very frustrated. So when we have class at the library, it's very amusing. It's amusing to me. Because people get frustrated. But, and I'll tell them and I'll tell you, because I'm full of these wonderful sayings, you're never married to anything. There is nothing that we can't fix. So always remember that whatever you do, you're not married to it. Okay, so you'll be dry. Okay, so it's called slip slapping. We slip slapped the background, and then we floated the edges. When you float with a darker color, it's called shading. So we shaded the edges. If you float with a lighter color, or you dry brush with a lighter color, it's called highlighting. Okay? And I always tell my students, remember, lighter is highlighting, and then that'll help you remember that shading is darker. Or think of it as a shadow. So you'll take your pattern, and if you don't have pattern, the line drawing, I put it on my Facebook in the comments on my post. Okay? And it'll be there probably for another couple of days. And then I'll take it down. So, I line up my line drawing where I want it. Okay? You have graphite paper. Graphite paper works like carbon paper, but I'm sorry, it's erasable. So one side is dull and one side is shiny. Now you can use this over and over and over again, as you can tell. I've used this, I can't even tell you. Okay? So a lot of people, they put their piece down and then they do this. So now you don't know where your piece is. So I come and I put my pattern down. Now some people tape, so they put a piece of tape here so that they can just pop it up and down. I'm lazy, so I just plop my finger there, and then I just put this under. Okay, so now you can use anything you want. You can use a stylus, you can use the back of a paintbrush. I'm using a mechanical pencil with no point, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to trace my pattern. Now, if you're painting along with me and you're falling behind, because I know some people say I go too fast, but I try to get everything in so that you have it by, you know, a full piece. Now, you don't have to put these in. I wasn't paying attention because you're not going to see them when you paint. So that's where my three colors will be. And then you'll lift and it'll be there. So I'll get this in. And I'll here just so I can show you how to base it. Okay? So the good thing about this is carbon paper, when you touch it, it goes everywhere. This, again, you can erase it. So even after you paint, you can erase it, which is a wonderful thing, you know. Okay, so when you base coat, let me make sure I'm where I'm at. When you base coat, always base coat with the largest brush that you have for the area you're in. Okay. I am not brush friendly. My brushes are everywhere. So we'll come in. This popsicle, oh, I did it on the other side already, is summer squash. So it's the same color we used in the background. Now, I'm just coming in, and you see how I'm pulling my paints? I don't want you to go like this, because I don't know if you can see it, but there's big blobs there, okay? And those blobs will dry just as they are. So you want to pull it so that you have a nice even coat. Now, will it be transparent? Depending on the color, probably. But that's okay. As soon as it dries, you'll just add another coat. Okay, so you'll just come in, use the lines that are there as a guide. You are not married to them. They are erasable. So you'll see when I flip the other side, I changed the shape of one of them because it just didn't, I don't know, it didn't translate right. So now I went out here. So now it kind of has a wiggly edge. So you just take a Q-tip, a little wet, and you just take it right off. Okay? Use the Q-tips at the dollar store. I know people are like, but I have Q-tips. Q-tips, the brand Q-tips, have a lot of cotton on them. So it's very hard when you have so much cotton to do this and you have the cotton going all over and touching everything. So you don't want that. You want very little cotton. The Q-tips at the dollar store are fabulous for painting. It's all I use. Okay, so when we do this one looks like a watermelon. So you see that? Hopefully I'm in the screen. We're going to use watermelon slice here. We're going to use white here. And we're going to use green Irish moss here. Now, if you look close, let's hope I'm in the screen. When you look close, there's not a harsh line there. You see that? And I'm going to show you how to do it. But I purposely didn't make a harsh line because I wanted you to look natural. Okay? So I'm going to take some watermelon slice. Am I going too fast? Is anybody painting along? Yes. Betty said, some people like to use pointed Q-tips. I don't have one to show you, but I think it's Walmart. Betty, mention in the comments what it is so that they know. But they literally have a point on them, so you can get into like the littlest spot. I just buy them at the, and the pointed ones don't have a lot of cotton on them. So they're allowed to use them. If anybody's painting along and I'm going too fast, just slow me down. Yes, what, Sarah? You can't just say yes. You got to tell me yes, what? Yes, I'm going too fast. Yes, you're painting with me, what? Okay, so Betty said they're in the makeup section at Walmart. All right, so I've got my yellow here. And if you can see, you see how here it's not opaque? It's a little better in here, but this is not opaque. But a second coat, it'll be opaque, so it'll be fine. Oh good, I stayed pretty in the thing. Okay. So now, yes, with a lighter color for the, okay, good. Thanks, B. I don't want to go too fast and stress you all. By the way, just so you all know, when I'm done, I hit save or something, and it goes to the library website, the Facebook page. So if you go on the library's Facebook page and go onto the little tab that says live, scroll down and all my live painting videos will be there, along with other lives. And if you go in the video section, the first few that we recorded are in the video section. So they'll be there. I mean, I'm not in charge of it, but I'm guessing forever. Okay, so now I'm coming in. And again, I'm lightly painting. And you see why I said don't put these middle lines in? Because you're not going to see them when you're going to go over them. And I'm here, and I do a nice little edge. And I go down to this line. My brush is flat. I've got thin paint. Okay. Are you keeping up with me, Sarah? I know I keep asking you, so you have to stop painting. Sorry. Anybody who's painting along with me or not painting along with me and doing it after, one thing I'll do is I'll go in and I'll answer the questions at the end. So if I don't see it and I don't answer you while I'm going, don't worry about it. And if you have any questions, you want to send me your piece, you want me to tell you, yes, it's good, fix this, whatever, just pop me off a Facebook message and I'm happy to help you along. I constantly check and I constantly answer my students. And honestly, you could ask me 100 times. I'm really fine with it. I'm pretty easy. This color that I'm painting the top of the popsicle is watermelon slice. You don't have it, so red and white will do. Red will do. You can do regular red, big. I happen to really like watermelon slice. It's one of those, it's not pink. If you mix red and white, you're going to get pink, so you really don't want pink. But red will do. Here's a little color theory 101. If you need a lighter red, mix a little bit of very light green in it, and because that's the complementary color, and it will stay red and it'll lighten it. So if you're undercoating something, same thing. Okay, so I base that part of the popsicle. And then I'm going to pick up Irish moss. I'm going to base coat down here. Okay. I don't know if you guys can hear all that noise outside. If you can, I'll close the window. I have very noisy neighbors. So I'm sorry. And I live in a very quiet house. I'm just very quiet. But you all know that about me. You're welcome, Bee. Are you all staying safe? Bee, is your mother-in-law safe? Okay, so while that's drying, I'll come in and I'll put another coat of summer squash on the yellow popsicle. Now this is a fun piece. I'm working on a Lazy Susan, don't tell anybody, it's a secret, that has popsicles going all the way around it. That green is an awesome green. So you can take this piece and you can add more popsicles. I try to keep it enough for class. But you can add more popsicles. You can change the words. You can put them on the bottom. You can put them going up the side. You can put the popsicle here and here. You can take this design and change it all over, which is a lot of fun. So keep that in mind. Okay. Some here. Okay, so now if you look closely, you can see it's opaque, and that was my second coat. Okay. Now, my watermelon slice. Now, I put nothing here so far. There's nothing between the two colors because that's how I'm going to lose the harsh line if we have a harsh line. Okay. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to do another coat of watermelon slice. And I have this base coated on the other side, but because I have some painting with me, I'm going to slow my butt down and go a little bit slower. I thank you all for coming and painting with me. We have a lot of fun together. You're welcome, darling. Oh, good. Bee's mother-in-law is a student also. She comes to the library and she's older, much older, and she is a pip and a half. She's so happy to paint and she's so happy to talk to us, and we all just adore her. But I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I have students that are fabulous at the library, out of the library, around where I travel teach. I've just met the nicest people. And Sarah paints with me up in Massachusetts. And I'm so sad we're not going this year. I'm like heartbroken. But we're all like old friends. So you see what I'm doing? So now I have two coats on my yellow and my green and my red. So while I'm waiting for this to dry, because if I pull the white in, okay, and I'm just going to tell you, I don't want you to do it, but I'm not going to get the color between them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the white into the pink and it's going into the red, and it's going to make pink. And I don't want to do that. So I need this to dry. But that's fine, because while that's drying, I'm going to take some antique white. And I'm again going to put out little puddles. Now, you can see the size of the puddles I put out. And I use so little paint. I'm still working off the yellow from my background. I put this much for my pink, and I put, it's not pink, it's watermelon slice. And I did 2 coats and used almost nothing. Look at the Irish moss. I used almost nothing. So I put less of the antique white, but I will use almost nothing of that. So always put out less of your paint. Always use little bits of paint. Your paints will last you a long time. Take care of your brushes. They'll last you a long time. I use Dynasty brushes. I use Dynasty brushes because they are so well made. This is a black silver brush. They're all, oh, don't quote me on the price. I think the entire line is $349 a brush or $369 a brush. In that range. And no matter what size, they're workhorses. I use them for all of my base coating. I don't use them for my floating and such. I use a better brush. But these, I use them for all my base coating. And they hold up, I can't even tell you. And they're inexpensive, which is wonderful. You know, some here, and depending on where you are, depends on how fast you'll dry. But remember what I said is that if you hold it on an angle and there's a shine, see, I can still see the shine here, so I know that that's still wet. If you can see a shine, it's still wet. If you don't see a shine, like here, it's dry. You won't always see it if you hold it like this. You have to hold it on an angle, and that's when you'll see it. Sorry. Okay. So, minus my white. Let me just fan dry so that I can do the white for you. And if you're not where I am, stay with me as much as you can and go back and do like the popsicle sticks later and that kind of stuff. The video will be here. I am always accessible and happy to help. And I mean that. I know some people say, well, I don't want to bother you, but I mean that. I'm happy to help you. And if you send me a picture and ask me to critique it, I take my nice little Apple pencil and I put notes all over your pictures. I have a grand old time doing that. I have a designer friend that she sends me pictures, and she, especially flowers, because flowers are my thing. And I write all over her pictures. And I send it back to her. It's a lot of fun. Okay. That is true, Jane. When I teach in Vegas, when we're in Vegas, we are dry. So no matter what class I'm teaching, I order extender for every class. I wish every teacher did, but I carry my own extender with me because in Vegas, we have to instant dry. That is true. But hopefully, after 2020 now, I'll tell you a secret that I haven't told anybody. My birthday was recently, very recently, and I never tell anybody. But, so, there was a story to this. I don't know why I was telling you that. I don't know. It'll pop in. All right, so we're going to take the white. Now I'm picking it up on the brush. I'm kind of going to go right down the middle. And I still, if you look closely, I haven't touched. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. My birthday was recently. And I decided 2020 is like the year that wasn't. So I'm not changing my age. I'm staying the same age I was. So you all have, you know, my blessings. Keep your age, because I'm not changing it. So now I'm taking my brush and I'm kind of flicking. So watch me. I'm flicking into the white. See that? So that I have that nice rugged edge. Then I'll turn it upside down and I'll flick it the other way. So again, I don't have a harsh edge. Thank you, B. I keep my birthday secret. I'm one of those, I don't tell anybody. But I had a very nice birthday. So, now I'll come in and I'll do it again. So flick, 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 flick. Now, you see how I did that? Now if I say, oh, well, let me dry this so that I can show you how I would fix it if it wasn't right. Next year, we're all going to be back to normal. We're going to be back together, and we're going to be, you're going to have my hands all over your piece, and I'm going to be traveling to teach, and we're all going to be happy and healthy, and the same age we were this year. So, okay. The red, I think, is okay. So my green, if you look close, see how I lost, in my opinion, too much of my green. So now I'll come in and I'll load my brush in green. So now I have some green on my brush, and it's across the whole brush. And I'll flick up into the white. So you see how I'm taking some of that white out? And I'm just flicking back up. Oops, not that much. And then I don't have a harsh line. See that? I have a nice graduation of color that kind of goes together. So in the end, it'll look like that. See how pretty that looks? Okay. That's exactly what I am, 20 plus forever. I'm getting older and older. I'm 20 plus more than, I don't even want to say how many times. I'm not telling. Less than your mother-in-law. Okay. So you're all up to where I am? Hey, Deb. When you come paint with me, and it'll be the same thing Monday. If you're going to come paint, and I'll show you what the piece is at the end, have a fan, because it'll help you kind of keep up with me so that you'll be dry. Like you'll dry when I dry, because we're going to have to do a sky and we're going to have to do sand, and we can't put the pattern on until all of that is done. So, you see? So she's 95 again. That is true, Sarah. That is true. Although I'm not getting older this year. This year does not count. Hello, Dolores. This year is off the books. I can't work. I can't teach. I can't anything. So I'm so thankful that I can spend this time with you guys. So now I'm going to put my pattern right back on. So you see how I can just line it right back up? So I've base coated, but I can see. And I just lift shiny side of my graphite. I put it under. And I'm just going to come, and then this is with anything. So whatever details you have, you're going to trace your details. Does not. So I'm going to come in, and I'm going to, now, when you use graphite paper, which comes in dark and white, when you use graphite paper, it's the pressure that's transferring the graphite. It's not the point of a pencil. So if I used, because I have no point in my pencil, if I use the back of my brush, it's the same thing. It's the pressure. Let's see if I'm telling the truth. Okay, see that? So now my, I didn't do that one so well, did I? But that's okay. We'll just take that right out. And we'll pretend it's nothing, and we'll wing it. Okay? So you're all where I am? Hi, Nanette. Okay. Yes, I know Vegas is in limbo, and I'm not happy about it, so I just don't talk about those things. They're off my radar. Okay, so where you are now, hi Nanette, is where I am here. Okay? The difference here is I have my lettering on this side. Now this has been dry for a while, and I have a spot here, so I'm just taking a wet Q-tip, and I'm taking it right off. If it doesn't come off, you can just go over it with the base coat color, but it's fine. Okay, so that's where you should be. So we're partially there. This is where we'll end up. Now, here I have flat popsicles. That's right, Linda Bubble. Wow, you did a me, but you clean up better than me. I do. Oh, Nanette, I have to tell you something. You are late, but I was late too. I had no electricity, so we were late together. I find it hard to place again the paper to trace the details. All right, so the answer to that be, I know everything is backwards and I don't know why. I'm going to have to, it was last class and then I forgot about it. So I'm going to have to find out before next class. Because it's not my camera. I don't know what it is. I'll find out. So B, the answer is, you do put it on tracing paper first. So my original pattern, I don't know, just pretend that this is that. Here's paper, regular paper. So I would take my pattern and I would lay the tracing paper over it and then I would trace it. So now it's on tracing paper and I can see through it. You see that? So it's easier to line it up that way. When you have it on regular paper, and I don't know where this pattern is, but you can go here and hold it up to the light, and you can usually see that I'm holding up to the light off the camera, so you can't even see it, sorry. So you can do it that way, okay? But trace it on tracing paper. A lot of students all the time carry tracing paper with them and a pencil. So when they get to class, take the pattern, put it on. So this is our base coat and everything is flat. So we're going to go from this to this just with floating color. Okay? So we're going to go back to the same thing we did here, and I'll tell you wet blot load blend again. So it will get in there. And we're going to, now what I always do is I float, when I'm shading, a darker value of the color. So we'll go from the medium value, which is the medium watermelon slice, to the darker value, which will be antique maroon. Okay? Dark makes an element recede, light brings it towards us. So as we float dark, and we will do it, but you see how it appears that this is going down. All I'm going to do is shade darker between here and here, and you see the dimension difference? And that's what that does. So I'm going to do, so if you're painting, pull out your colors. Antique maroon, slate gray, I think Hauser green dark, right? Hauser green dark. And then on this pop, we're going to float canyon orange. So pull those colors. Okay? And all that's going to do is that's going to, and it's a very simple technique. The more you do it, the better you will get at it. So you have to try to, as much as you can, practice. It doesn't matter, and I tell everybody, you don't have to be in a class, you don't have to. And the good thing is, here at the library, you can go back to old videos and you can pull those and you can listen to them and you can practice, practice, practice. You can take a coloring book. You can take a coloring book and put a sheet of plastic over it and just practice floating over and over and over. The more you practice, the better you will be. I promise. Okay, so you need a little bit of antique maroon, little bits. Hauser green dark, and slate gray. Those are my shading colors here, and canyon orange is my shading color here. So put out a little bit of all four colors. Shake them. And you want to tip if you get clumps in your paint. Take a piece of stocking, hosiery, knee-high, whatever. Open your paint, lay it here, put this back on. The paint will come through as you do it, and a lump will not. That's a good tip that most people, I don't usually say, simply because I don't think about it. Don't read anything more into it. I just don't think about it, you know. All right, so because I want these whole sections to recede. Now remember what I said, I can't do here and here if I'm going to hit them. So I'm going to wet, I'm going to blot, I'm going to corner load. Now I have very little on the brush, I don't know if you can see it, I'll tilt it. And then I'm going to blend. Now, if you remember why you're using a darker color, you're using it to push something down. That will help you say, okay, my paint is here, I want to push this edge down. So my paint is right up against that edge, and I'm coming here. I'm only going the length of the red because we're trying to stay in a darker value for that color. If I brought red here, it won't make any sense. Okay? So we're going to go there with my paint facing towards the left. So my paint is on this side of my brush facing left. I'm going to do this one too because I'm not touching anything while it's drying. So when you're doing these things, it's best just flip-flop around. See, Betty, I can still teach something. I flip-flop around. So when I'm in the white, I'm going to shade with gray. So I'm making sure. Now listen, this is really, really important. This is all one section, even if it's different colors. So you have to connect. So I'm here, start right there, and go right there. So that when it comes down, and we'll do the same thing with the green, but it's got to form one line or it won't make sense. And I'm here. So if your line is drawn in the wrong spot, ignore it and erase it later. Okay, and see how my paint, my color is graduating? Okay, and then I'm going to use Hauser dark green. Hi, Vivian. I'm going to put Hauser dark green. Same thing, I'm going to start right at the gray, in line with the gray on both sides. Now it should form a line, a whole line, okay? It should be right in order. I'm going to do the same thing while that's drying because I don't want to pull it off. I'm going to go pop over to the Canyon Orange, wet, blot, load, blend, and I'm going to float the left side of each of these, each section of this. Now, I have no idea what my issue was, but I transferred that wrong. Oh, I don't know which side. Oh, I know it's on them. Okay. So, what I'm going to do, because it's erasable, I'll just come in and I'll make my own. So I'll come here and I'll just go there. Okay. And you see how it graduates in color? I start heavy. Okay. B. I didn't go all the way down to the bottom because in a popsicle, the indent is only part of the popsicle. So it doesn't go from the top to the bottom. It goes a little bit off and a little bit off. Does that make sense? So here it looks strange because it didn't go to the top or the bottom, but when you see it done, it makes more sense. Did that make sense? hopefully. Okay. So now we're going to flip, and I'm going to go back to this popsicle. I'm going to go in reverse now because I want to pull this way because I'm pulling towards me. So I'm going to take the green, and I'm going to do, now my paint is facing the other way, but I'm still inside that section. Okay. I'll clean my brush. I'll pick up gray. And I'll connect there. I think that's off. No, it's okay. And then I'll do the same thing with the antique maroon. Now, if you choose, I pull towards me when I float. So I'm pulling this way. If you choose to pull this way, that's fine. It's more comfortable for my hand. It's not a right or wrong issue if you pull away from you versus towards you, as long as you load your brush with a wet blot load blend, and when you float with all the bristles on all the surface all the time. It doesn't matter if you pull towards you or away from you. Sometimes, depending on it, yeah, I'll show you here. Sometimes my hand is more comfortable if I'm sideways. So I'll be here and hold my piece sideways, and I'm pulling sideways. So that's, always know, that's not a right or wrong issue. The correct way to float is loading your brush, the wet blot load blend, and floating is keeping your brush flat so that you have a graduating color, okay? It's not a matter of, I want you to pull my way. It doesn't matter. If you're more comfortable pulling left to right, pull left to right. It doesn't matter. Pull up and down. Just keep your brush perfectly flat. Okay? And you see how I'm starting to create that dimension? Makes a big difference, doesn't it? So now I'll pop back to the orange, and I'll do the other side of this inset. So I'm going to change that one too. And only because I drew it wrong. Now I will do the top and the bottom to give it a solid inset. So B, you asked me why I didn't go to the bottom with the orange, but with the green, but you see I didn't with the orange either. For the same reason, the inset doesn't go all the way to the bottom. But as it's coming together here, you can see it more. It's making more sense. Okay, so now, again, I'm wet, blot, load, blend. Now what I will tell you is I want you to load every stroke. So when you do this stroke, I want you to wet, blot, load, blend. Then the next stroke, wet, blot, load, blend. As you advance and you practice, you'll know if you don't have to, like if you could get 2 strokes out of it, but make it a rule for yourself, because I'd rather you practice that, plus you'll have enough to make the whole stroke. So that's really important. Okay? Let me see. Okay, good. Good, good, good. All right, so now I should be, let's dry for a second. I'm so excited to show you what's next. And then Monday, I'll show you the August class for the intermediate. I'm on my Facebook too, but I'll show you my intermediate piece on Monday. I gotta save something to show. All right, so wet, blot. Now, I want to make this a whole inset. So I'm going to take my green here and go across. Make sure I'm in the camera. If I'm out of the camera, I'm sorry. The library website, you're delayed from where I am. I think it's a 3-second delay, so I don't always know right away when I'm off. Okay. Now I'll take, I don't know why I'm upside down. Let's see. Is that better? Let me it'll flip and then I'll tell you. Come on. Maybe more than 3 seconds. Let me see if that's that right side up for you. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So now I'll do the bottom of the orange. And only because... And then I want you to flip your piece so that you're comfortable. I'm going to do it this... normally I would do it the other way. Then I'm going to do the top. And remember, we're floating where we want to push down. So I'm floating on the inset itself. And I'm here. So now I've created that. And then over here, I'm going to go back to the antique maroon. And I'm going to finish the tops. So you see what we did? We just really popped and made that completely dimensional. We have to move just a little quicker. Only because we got 20 minutes. And yes, I'm timed. Okay, so you see all that? Okay, so let's get a little bit of burnt umber, because the stick's real easy, so I can show you that. Make sure you shake. A little bit of burnt umber. Now, I want to shade. I'm really bad with left and right, and you're probably, I think I'm mirror image, so I want to shade the side where the S's are on the lettering. So for me, it's the left side, but I don't know if it is for you. So I'm going to come all the way down. Again, I'm floating. Wet, blot, load, blend. I'm here. And I'm here. Okay. We'll do a little bit more, but we'll give that a little bit of drying time. Now, when you're not painting with me, you can, instead of drying, just work on another part. So here, if I wasn't doing this with you, I would work on the letters. So I would give that time, you know, while this is drying, I would do that. I should be dry. All right, so now this one, short of dry brushing, is the shading is on the popsicle is done. But that's because we have all these colors in there, so it starts dimensional. Here, I need to push down the sides so that it looks like it's got thickness to it. So you see here, I want to push this down. So we're going to float here, we're going to float here, we're going to float here, and we're going to float here. But again, we can't do it all at once because we'll pull it off. So what I'm going to do, we're in Canyon Orange still. Wet, blot, load, corner load, blend, and we're going to come all the way down the side. And then we'll flip. I know I'm upside down for you. I'll go right side up in a minute. And we're going to go up the opposite side. So what we're doing is, and you see, my brush is going right over what I floated, but it's dry, so it doesn't matter. I think I gotta go this way. Okay, so that has to, hey Deb, so that has to dry before I go in and do here, or what's going to happen is I'm going to pull off anything that I touch. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, now remember what I said, dark makes the item recede, light brings it towards us. So when you look at these popsicle sticks, they don't look like they're going into the ice cream, they look like they're connected to the ice cream. So we're going to go back to the burnt umber, and we're going to float the top of the stick. And what that does is, if you look at that, now it looks like it's going into the ice cream as opposed to connecting to the ice cream. You see that? And that's just a float of color. It's just a little bit of a, it's how we create dimension. So it's not a matter of doing anything special. It's a technique, and if we use it the right way, we can create anything. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the orange because I'm dry. And remember what I said, look at it on an angle. If you're shiny, you're not dry. If you're not shiny, you're dry. Well, not shiny, matte. Let me get more orange. We'll come in. Had to get more paint. So we wet, we blot, we load, we blend. And my brush is perfectly flat, all the bristles on all the surface all the time. I know I say it over and over. And when we're at the library, I tell my students all the time, you're going to hear my voice in your head while you're sleeping. And you probably will too. But that's a good thing. Another thing I will say, and it's real important what I want you to do, is if you, when you float, every single time, say wet, blot, load, blend. As you're doing it, you will remember to do it. You won't forget a step. If when you're floating, you say all the bristles on all the surface all the time, you will remember to do it, and you will remember not to lift. Okay? Sometimes I tell people, write it on a piece of paper, wet, blot, load, blend, all the bristles on all the surface all the time, and just keep it right where you are. So until it becomes just a second nature to do all those steps, the problem I find when people have a hard time floating is they are forgetting a step. They're either not blending or they're not holding their brush flat, and then they get a flat line. And that's, you can fix it, because I told you we're not married to anything, but I can't help you to do every step without you doing it. I know it sounds mumbled. But, so write it down. Take a little piece of paper and just put it right next to you, wherever you're painting, and just do the steps one by one. Or listen to my voice in your head over and over and over, which is fun, right? Okay, so you need a little bit of bright salmon. You need a little bit of warm white, and you should still have Irish moss. Those are the colors you need. So I still have a little bit of Irish moss. I still have a little bit of white, and I'll get bright salmon, which is this. If you don't have bright salmon, You can take your red or your watermelon slice and add a little bit of white to it because it'll turn it the pink it is. You see how it's pink? Okay. So I'm going to take my Mezzaluna brush, and I use the Mezzaluna brush for a lot of reasons. I love it, but it is a dry brush that's washable, and you can pinch it dry and use it with another color. Traditional dry brushes you can't do that with. Okay, so what happens is you have to have a brush for every color until you're done. You can't wash it until you're done painting. Until you're done painting in that color. But then it's not usable. So, I'm blabbing a bit. So, remember what I said, that light brings the element towards us? So, I have dark here, which pushed the insets in. Now I have, oh, I should be this way, right? So now I want to make this appear as if it's coming up. So, and I'm going to show you, but I'm going to tell you first. We're going to dry brush a little bit of bright salmon in where we want to bring up. And again, I just jumped a value. So I started with my middle value, which was the watermelon slice. I went to my dark value, which is antique maroon, and then I'm jumping to my light value, which is bright salmon. I'm going to take a little bit of Irish moss and white and dry brush it down in here. I'm going to clean my brush, and I'll show you. And then I'm just going to dry brush some white into where I want to make that brighter. And it'll take this to this. So we went from totally flat. We went from totally flat, okay, to a couple of floats, which brought us here, and then a couple of dry brushes will bring us here. Okay, so I'm going to take bright salmon. I'm going to pick it up on the brush. I have a decent amount, but I'm not globbing it in. Okay, I'm going to take my paper towel. I'll have to get a new one. And I'm just going to pinch so that I have just a little bit of paint, and I pulled off paint. So you see that? I'm on the tips of my bristles, and I'm just going to dry brush. And I'm putting pressure on there. I'm just scrubbing it in. Not light enough? Do it again. I would rather you do it 2 or 3 times than get it blobby in there. Because if you get it blobby, and you can put a little bit in there if you want. I just put a little bit for a shine. I don't want it to be blobby. If it's blobby, it doesn't. So if I took my paint and went like this, that's what I'm going to get. I don't want that there. Okay, so I'll show it to you up close when you just kind of blob it in there. You see that? You don't want that. I'm just going to take my Q-tip. Remember we talked about Q-tips before? And pull it off. Okay. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to clean it. I'm going to pinch it dry. There's nothing on there. That's the good thing about this. You don't need 10 dry brushes. I'm going to pick up the Irish moss. So there's a little bit on my brush. I'm going to pick up white. So I have both on the brush. When I pinch, I got a lighter green. See that? You see that there? Now I have a lighter green. And I'm just going to come right in here. Yes, you need to say it with my accent, Sarah. Because I can't say it with your accent. Sometimes I wonder how I can get that New England. I just can't do it. That's why I love being up there. I get to hear y'all talk. And I'm just bringing a little bit of that in there. And if you notice, I'm not doing the whole thing, because if you do the whole thing, you're losing that you have different depths. So you just want to get some in there. I'll clean my brush. I'll pinch it dry. and I'll pick up warm white. Again, I'll pinch it off, this is a little bit, and I'll just dry brush warm white in there. Be patient with yourself. Don't try to achieve everything 1, 2, 3. Sometimes I dry brush 4 or 5 times until I get what I like. That doesn't bother me. Bring a little bit in here, give it a shine. I don't rush things. I paint quickly, but I don't. People look at things and they say, that took you hours? And I'm like, you have no idea. But if you see how many steps we have to do, so sometimes we float and we reinforce it, and we float 3 times in the same spot. Or we'll dry brush when we're trying to brighten this 4 or 5 times. Okay? So that's important. You gotta be patient with yourself. And remember what I said, you're not married to anything. So you can fix anything. Or we can fix anything. Okay, so your popsicles are done. Now, I have graphite here. At some point before I varnish, I'll just come in and I'll erase it. Okay, now here's a quick tip. Terpenoid, odorless terpenoid. T-U-R-P. Oh, I have it here. I can show you. Terpenoid. Okay? Not turpentine. It's a turpentine substitute. I can take a towel and just wipe over it, and it'll take all this graphite off. So I tend to do that with most of my pieces, just in case I'm missing something. Okay, let me quickly show you letters, because I know I'm on a time frame, which I hate. I'm going to use a rigger, and a rigger looks like this. Now, what I love about the rigger is that it's a flat brush and it's a round brush all in one. So, in Canyon Orange, I'm going to take my rigger, I'm going to pull some paint, and I'm going to wiggle my brush. So see how I now have a flat brush? I have a nice small flat brush, if you can see that. So what I'm going to do, and something that's really important, always use your graphite as a guide. Don't use it as the end all, because I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do and I don't want you to take your brush and go like this. That never works. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to flatten your rigger. And I use my rigger for everything. I use it for lettering. I use it for base coating. I would have base coated here. I do eyes. Okay? So I'm here. My brush is flat. I'm pressure. And if I release pressure, I get thinner. You see that? I'm here. Now if I want to go thicker, I just come in. My rigger is splitting. Can you see that? So I'm not as thick as, there's a lot of pressure, and now I'm up to the edge, and you see what I have there? I promise I'll find out why I'm backwards on the screen. I don't know why. And then I'm here. And all this extra graphite will erase. So don't worry about that. Okay, I'll do this word because I know we're running late. E. And you see, I use my lettering as a guide. I put it in there for you. I traced it off my original piece. But I kind of just letter. And look, I'm up on the edge. So I'm using it as a flat and then as a round. Okay. Now while that's drying, I'm going to take burnt sienna, somewhere in here. I'm take burnt sienna, and now I'm going to use the brush as if it were a liner. Now, outside the right side of the letters, I'm going to create dimension. So I'm just going to come next to the letter, and I'm here. This is a right side. This is a right side. This is a right side. So it's not only, well, I'll do this whole side. And I'm here. Right side, right side, right side. Do you see the difference between that letter and that letter? There is so much dimension in there, simply because we put that extra shadow in there. So I'm going from this to this. And it's all the right. So always look at your piece, and remember, the right is not necessarily just right here, because this is a right side too. And this is, I'm using the same brush. I'm just using it as a round, so I didn't flatten it, and I'm using it more on the tip of the brush. So this brush you can use all the way around. You can use it for flat, you can use it as a round, you can use it all in one stroke. So if I want to do flat and then go up and then go down, I can do that. I can do a ribbon if I had enough paint. You see that? From here, up, here, up. You see that? So this brush you can do with everything. And they're very inexpensive. I want to say they're $4, $4.50, something. They're under $5. I'm very bad with prices, I'm sorry. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of Tangerine. And I'm just not going to do this because I want to finish and show you. I think I answered everybody's questions. If I didn't, I'll go back in and I'll answer them in writing too, so that you all have the answers when you go back. Okay, so I just did a quick. Then I'm going to take my Mezzaluna again, because I can, if I can find it. Okay, it's pinch dry. I'm going to pick up a little bit of Tangerine, and I'm just going to create some dimension. I'm going to pick it up, pinch, and using just the tips straight up, I'm going to dry brush some right into the center of the letter. Now I'm not everywhere. Sorry if I'm off screen. I'm not everywhere. See where I am? And I'm just going to brighten those letters. And then I'll do the same thing on Summer. And then, like I said, erase. And you can do this piece on anything. It would look really cute on a flower pot. It would look really cute on, like this is a sign I pulled something I had. But it would look really cute on a flower pot. Okay, so that's everything. Now, Monday, this is what we're doing. Let's see. I know you're delayed, so just give me a second to make sure I'm holding it right. Come on. You're still behind me. Ah, there we go. Okay. So what I'm going to teach you is I'm going to teach you the sky. I'm going to teach you the water. I added the water after because I didn't like it. So just, if you have, get a piece of tape. I'm going to teach you how to do clouds. My way of doing clouds. And all of that's going to have to be dry before we transfer the palm tree and I teach you the palm tree. So have a fan. And then sneak peek. We are going to do in August. I will tell you when because I wrote myself this nice little note. August 12th at 7 p.m. We're going to do this piece that hangs on a door. Okay? I used a lot of metallics. If you don't have metallics, you don't have to use metallics. You can use any colors you want. Okay? And you can write anything you want. I kept it generic, but it would look really cute with your kid's name or your grandkid's name. Now, this piece looks like this from the dollar store. I bought this at Dollar Tree. There you go. There's the number, so it's there. And the prep will be there. You just have to sand this, the glitter, and just rough this up. And then you can paint right over it. So for $1, you can have a great piece. You see that? I know, I'm sorry it's backwards. I don't know why. I'm going to have to ask them at the library. I can paint my little heart out, but I don't do the text stuff. So I kind of stink at that. So, but go to Dollar Tree, get this piece. Like I said, you can do anything. I'll have the line drawing on my Facebook. I did purple and pink metallics. I did gold metallic. You do not have to do that. You can do blue and green. It doesn't have to be metallic. Anything that makes your heart sing. Just follow along with me in your own colors. And then show it to me because I would love to see it. All right. So, let me flip you around so I can see you. Hi, all. I know we were a little late today, but we're all done. All right. So, I hope you all had a wonderful time. Please, if you painted with me or you painted after, pop your pictures. You can send them to me, but pop them in the comments here so that the library can see them too. And I think that's everything. Everybody stay safe. Hopefully I'll see you on Monday. I will be here Monday. Hi, Deb. And that's it. If you need me, message me, and I'm happy to help you. All right, have a wonderful night. Thank you all so much for hanging with me, and I'll see you Monday. Night.